5-Year Mission the Podcast, Episode 6.
This week's episode of 5-Year Mission the Podcast is brought to you by Fansets, the place for amazing pin collectibles. See all the pins and collectibles they have to offer at fansets.com, and stay tuned for this week's special 5-Year Mission the Podcast discount code. Fansets, we are Star Trek.
By now you figured out that this is the 5-Year Mission Podcast.
Welcome to the 5-Year Mission Podcast. Do your cartoon voice, the Andy cartoon.
Well, I use an effect for that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Welcome to the 5-Year Mission Podcast.
Welcome to 5-Year Mission, the podcast.
Welcome to 5-Year Mission, the podcast.
Yes. This week, we have Noah Butler and Chris Burgeon and myself. I am Mike Rittenhouse. And that's all I needed to say. Okay. Fark's not here. This is like the first episode that doesn't have Fark.
I think it's okay to be farkless.
Yeah.
Farkless.
This week, we're here to talk about
Squire of Gothos.
Not just the song.
Yeah, the episode and the song. When we do our albums, we draw the songs to see who gets what episode. And Chris is the lucky guy who drew this particular episode.
I had no idea what it was when I pulled it out of it.
Do you remember like pulling for year 2? Because I don't remember it at all.
Year 2.
It's been so long ago.
That was because we didn't draw for year 1.
No, we didn't draw for year 1.
So year 2 was that the urn?
That was the urn. Yeah.
That was an urn.
Yeah.
That's right.
It was like a wooden base, but we called it an urn.
Yeah. Was it just one that was sitting around my house?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were just at your house after practice, and we decided we just did it on the spot. I think it was like right after we released year 1.
No, because we were still working on year 1 when we were writing the songs for year 2.
Oh, were we? Oh,
Yeah.
well. So yeah, I pulled. I can't remember right off the top of my head all the songs I had on that album, but I remember when I pulled Squire of Gothos, I had no idea what it was.
So the album it opens with this like killer guitar rocking, like driving
Galileo 7.
Yeah. With all of these great dynamics and whatever, and it sets you up for like a good ass kicking, and then you get that ass kicking in Arena, like literally, but there's like a sidebar in between.
Well, I mean, Squire of Gothos, the character was kind of a sidebar. I mean, Trelane was he was fancy. He was fancy, but he was. It's an interesting analogy that Mike makes, because Galileo 7 was all about the crew and Spock leading his first away mission, or not away mission, but his first command.
Intense episode.
And then Arena is this big battle episode against the Gorn, and Squire is this kind of random, they come across this kind of random entity that comes out of nowhere. And so that's a perfect analogy for the way the song sits in between those two episodes on the album. So nice work, Mike.
It does, yeah. Actually,
I did that on purpose.
Actually, yeah, that's brilliant. That's very meta now that I think about it.
But I don't know. I was telling Mike, I don't know really where the feel for that song came from. It was definitely in what I saw in Trelane, the character, because really the song is, it kind of takes you through the episode. It's one of those kind of procedural songs, but the feel itself was inspired by Trelane, the look of Trelane. And I know he's at the beginning, he's got like the outfit he wears is French, I think, maybe. I think I read somewhere that it was French. Yeah. And then later on, he's got the British wig.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I read an interesting story about that. We can talk about later. But just, the song is more of is definitely Spanish influenced.
Yeah.
And so it's just like in those, in that area of Europe right there is where it came from, I guess.
So when we started submitting our demos for year 2, Squire was the first demo that you sent out to us.
I think so. I think I started doing them chronologically there for a minute, just because I didn't know any of the episodes really.
So you were watching them and
Yeah, I was watching him and kind of churning him out as I was doing it. And City on the Edge of Forever was on year 2, wasn't it? Okay, so I was holding off on that one because that one I was terrified of.
Yeah.
And that one was actually, I did that one last, I remember, because you guys were waiting for me to do that, and you made up your own version.
Yeah.
One thing that I remember about that time was we had this sort of joke about your songs, because you always mention the name of the episode in your song, and almost always in the chorus.
At the time I did that.
Yeah, and so you sent us Squire, and I mean the chorus is Squire of Gothos, and so we started making this joke where every time that you got an episode, before you would send it to us, we would sing it to the tune of Squire of Gothos, where he's going to send us, it's going to be City on the Edge of Forever.
Well, and the funny thing is, the Negatime, I didn't do that.
I know.
Yep.
And on Dagger of the Mind, I kind of did it, but not exactly.
I mean, we say Dagger of the Mind like 50 times at the end of that song.
But like, okay.
But not during the chorus.
But not like up
I said... Usually in the chorus.
Up until then, but that's your part anyway. So. Balance of Terror is just at the very end. So I hadn't like overdone it, but then I come in with Squire of Gothos and City on the Edge of Forever. When I finally got that done, it had many more City on the Edge of Forever's in there.
That was one of the ones where we were like, you need to change this.
It had more Edith Keeler's in there too.
Yeah.
And I changed a lot of that. So yeah. But I think Squire really, I think it was appropriate for Squire of Gothos, because in that one, it just worked. I felt it worked, and it didn't feel, some of the some of the demos I put out, it feels tedious. I'm just like, man, I need to put some other words in here. But that one never felt tedious to me. It felt, it had kind of that hook quality that made it work for me.
I think the lyrics pretty much stayed the same from the demo to the album.
They did.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever changed.
And after rewatching the episode today, which Mike and I did earlier,
okay,
it is very appropriate for for what the feel of that episode and for what is happening in it. It's just.
I actually really like that episode. It's ironically, now I've changed my mind a little bit, but I was never a big fan of the Q episodes in TNG. I didn't really ever like Q. I thought he was just a little bit preposterous and very preposterous and pompous.
Yeah, I get very bored with Q.
I do too, and it kind of pulls me out of the episode, because Q can do anything, and so anything can happen in a Q episode. It's like a holodeck episode, which I'm also not a fan of, where like anything can happen, and so nothing feels real. It doesn't feel as concrete.
Well, because at any point he could just snap his finger and undo anything that's happened.
Right.
There's no real threat.
Right. And so
I liked them in Encounter at Farpoint. I thought that was a great, part of that episode. But if they hadn't brought him back so many times, it would make Encounter at Farpoint a more powerful episode.
I even think Encounter at Farpoint is a little tedious.
Yeah.
But going back to Trelane, he's been compared to, a Q-like character.
Yeah, there's a lot of debate about whether or not he's a Q.
Yeah, and I know he's been written in the books as a Q, or I think he was an apprentice to Q, that kind of thing. But the point is, I never really cared for those episodes, but this one is different because it's not this. You find out he's not really this omnipotent being. I mean, he is, but he's also a child. He's just playing around and having fun. And so that kind of elevates the threat level that you don't have with a Q, because a Q knows of the omnipotence and the power that is wielded, but a being that that's still a child, it's just like you have a kid and they don't understand, they don't have empathy, which is something that's missing from Trelane, which I find is really interesting, but it also makes him really easy to manipulate, where, Kirk destroys his source of power and he just throws this temper tantrum, and it's easy to challenge him when, he pretty much condemns Kirk to death, and Kirk just says, oh, well, you shouldn't do that. You should, let's play a game, where I die at the end. So it's a much more interesting concept to me than just somebody that has all this power and they can do whatever they want and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I always really enjoyed that at the end of the episode where he's like, you know, I could have won.
Yeah.
I was you know, he was
we
he's
were
like
watching
so
that today and
upset.
we were like, how many, I think we said, boy, that went on for a really long time. How many times he says, I would have, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, didn't Chris do that at the end of the song?
On purpose, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that's an important, I mean, that's like really.
Well, yeah, it's the end of Trelane, in the episode at least.
And I think he popped up again in comic books and
yeah,
elsewhere.
he's been in comics and in the novels for sure. But,
yeah.
I also find something interesting about this episode is that the end of the episode is basically the end of Charlie X. It's like the same.
Yeah.
Very similar.
It's like his parents
Very
show
much
up.
so. Yeah.
The only difference here is that he's an adult, so you're surprised that he's a child. But I thought that was funny because this is the 17th episode to air, and Charlie X was the second episode. So
yeah.
I mean, they're in the same season even.
I know, right? Oh, this was the first episode where Leslie takes the helm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Leslie.
Yeah.
Oh, Leslie.
That
That's
sounds
right.
about right. Sounds like something he'd do.
Okay. That's enough.
One thing that I always think is funny in this episode is like when you watch the original series, Spock's hair is always just like jet black on almost every episode. But for some reason in this episode, he's got like a little brown streak. Like right here, like right above his
specific,
right above his right eye. There's like a strand that just didn't get dyed or something. Or
interesting.
Yeah, if you watch it, like it really stands out in some scenes. I always thought that was weird watching this episode. Like he just has this brown strand in his hair, like but then it's gone in the next episode.
I think that's the nerdiest observation I've ever heard you have.
I remember this episode really clearly. From when I was watching them as a kid, it was one that somehow burned into my brain and stayed there for a long time.
It's almost cartoonish.
Yeah.
And it has things like the salt vampire statue and that like other bird-like thing in the background.
I forgot. Like I remembered there, like right when they walk in, there's a salt vampire statue. Yeah. But then I didn't realize until I watched it again tonight.
Kind of does a double take.
Yeah, that he blasts it with the phaser. Like he it's like the first thing he kills with the phaser. Like as a
just disintegrates it.
Yeah, just disintegrates it.
So here's a question. Trelane definitely has this feel like he's toying with them because like when they try to escape after they destroy his mechanism. That's another thing. Okay, so Trelane has all this power, and yet he needs this mechanism behind a mirror to do what?
Well, apparently to do something, but then he doesn't,
creates this planet out of
really
nothing.
need it.
Yeah, like Kirk shoots it and he gets upset, but then he still uses his powers.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure what...
He says something like, you think that's my only means of doing what he does?
It almost makes me wonder if it was almost intentional, like something they never talk about in the episode, but it's almost like a red herring. Like he sets this up for them to find out only so that they can do that so he can get mad because...
Right, so they think that they've won.
Yeah, because what he really wants is he wants to have conflict because when you're a little kid and you don't have anybody to play with and nobody really wants to play with you, that makes you angry. And so let's set something up so that you have a reason to be angry, So and then he goes after them and keeps putting the planet in front of him. So he obviously has way more power than what one would think he'd need this mechanism for.
Well, and we took a second to pause the screen on the mechanism after the mirror was shattered to see what was...
So like a couple of pie
what
tins
was inside. We were trying
like
to
a
figure
stuffed animal.
spoon.
I'm pretty sure there's like a stuffed parrot, like a stuffed animal parrot that's inside there as well. Like I couldn't even make out. It wasn't even a sort of steampunk mechanism inside. It was just it just didn't even make any sense.
It just looked like someone threw junk in there.
Yeah. And not even
Probably what it
recognizable
was.
junk.
Probably just a bunch of stuff glued together.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. They didn't have any money.
No, they did not.
Well, and then I saw somewhere that the costume that Trelane wears was reused on Gilligan's Island like the week after.
Yeah.
And then it was also used by Mike Nesmith on the Monkees. Yeah, and actually I think I remember seeing him wear that, because I mean they always wore outlandish costumes, but that one kind of stands out.
I know some of the Star Trek costumes were reused on Mork and Mindy.
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
I could see that.
Yeah, like I think one of the ones from that it's like really obvious is the one that the bald guy, I can't remember his name, Korob, he wears in Gamesters of Triskelion. Like he has that outfit, and if you watch, there's an episode of Mork and Mindy where one of the guys is wearing it, and it's like the exact outfit.
Interesting.
So I read something interesting. Oh, who was the director on this one? It was, one of the directors. If you said his name, you'd know him. And of course, I can't remember the guy who played Trelane. What was his name?
William Campbell.
Yeah. So William Campbell, they gave him this wig to wear, and it was like it was extra curly, and it wasn't period appropriate for what he was supposed to be wearing. So, Campbell, he was saying he needed this new wig, and Shatner was kind of a little bit, he was irritated by it because they would have to go find this other wig, and there was a little bit of a conflict there. But in the end, he talked to the director, and the director made the decision to get this period appropriate, British wig. And I just thought that was interesting that was an occasion where superstar Shatner did not get his way on his own show. So I thought that was funny. But then again, Campbell was pretty well known in his own right at the time.
Yeah. I mean, he was a character actor, did a lot of Westerns and...
Oh, you know who they wanted originally for the role? Roddy McDowall.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, and they ended up going with Campbell. And I can't remember if if they didn't have him come in because they'd already found Campbell, or I know what it was. They wanted McDowell, but they had Campbell come in and read, and the director saw him and he was just like, go get in makeup, let's go. You're in. So the song, there were so many little bits I could have latched onto, and at the time, I think we were still early on,
Yeah.
We hadn't really figured things out.
We kind of had thrown year one together.
Yeah.
And I mean, we worked really hard on those songs and everything.
But it wasn't as cohesive as
right.
it became.
I mean, year two was the first album that we truly worked on as a band from the start
to finish.
Yeah. So I mean, that was the first one, and for some reason I just had this idea already. Just again, kind of given his look and feel, and it just felt right to me.
I remember Patrick had sent out "Tomorrow Is Yesterday."
Okay.
And I heard that, and I was like, that's cool. I mean, that's an awesome song. And then Noah sends out the Galileo 7.
Yeah.
And oh man, that's really awesome. And then you sent out Squire of Gothos, and I had a Michael from Arrested Development moment. I was like, I've made a horrible mistake. A huge mistake. That's it.
I've never felt a whole lot of love for Squire of Gothos, but I like it. I think it turned out, let's just put it this way. It turned out exactly the way I wanted it to. So I was happy with it. We don't play it that often.
We did for a while. We played it quite a bit until year 3 came out.
I will say that when we played it live,
quite a bit.
It kind of tended to kind of slowed things down a little bit. So I think that's why we pulled it.
It's a hard song to play live unless we're doing a really mellow show.
Yeah, it takes a certain crowd.
We worked up though, we did work up a faster version, and every once in a while I go back through all these voice memos that I have mining for song ideas and different things, and I stumbled upon that not too long ago.
It's almost like a punk rock version.
Yeah, it was faster version of it that we'd recorded during practice and listened to it, and I was like, oh dang, that was cool. Why didn't we keep that up?
I think we played it like that in practice once, and then we didn't get together for a while, and we were coming up on a show, and I was like, why don't we do that? And there was dissension.
I think there was
because we didn't have time to really work on it.
I think not everybody was comfortable playing it different. So
yeah.
So when I heard the demo for the first time, I was really surprised at the style. I was like, because I mean, one of the things I love about this band is that we have like no limits. Like we try just about anything.
Yeah.
Like, we between all of us, we come up with a lot of different genres and styles, and that was one that I really had not even considered. And when I heard it,
I hadn't either.
It was way more Latin in my head. Like, I heard your demo, and all I heard was like a Ricky Martin song. It was like I heard like that like dance beat, and like
samba.
and I was like, what are we gonna do with this?
He said to trust my vision.
You're like, we're not capable of backing this up.
I was a little afraid.
As I recall, aren't you the one that put trumpet on it?
No, that was
that was the Prospect. We hired.
Yeah.
Him to come in.
We did put, but I think that was your idea to put trumpet on it.
That's right. We had talked about one of us doing it, and I had played trumpet before.
This is long before Mike.
This is before my trumpet.
This is before the trumpet incident.
Before Mike ever threw a trumpet across.
We'll talk.
My neighbor's
We'll
yard.
talk about that in a later episode.
Yeah, we did. So the trumpet, that was cool because that was our
hear those
first.
parts. Like every time we play those songs live.
That's because I played on the keyboard.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah. Have we, other than backing vocal parts, have we had any other musical guests on any other albums?
I don't think so.
We have.
I don't think we have.
No.
That's going to change on year 5.
Yeah,
I always feel like year 2 was the one that we tried to just really craft.
Yeah.
We really tried to do all these different things and bring in other musicians.
Yes, it was the sophomore experiment.
And then year 3 was a little bit more experimental.
But among us, maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like year 2 was more experimental. I think year 3 we got back to more like a driving rock kind of album. Year 3 we expanded our genres,
experimental
I think.
Their own way.
But I think we did a lot of weird things on year 2.
Like all of us had like some strange songs on year 2.
We did. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole, like, even our whole, like, the whole song before Who More, like the track 17, like that
track
whole
17.
weird thing that we did.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was all, I mean, that's awesome. Like, I wish we could.
That was track 16. 17.
Do something like that again.
Track 16.
16 was the
17
the lead
was
up to Adonius.
Yeah. That's right, yeah.
Captain's log. Star date.
That's how I keep thinking, like, because I have too many ideas and I have songs, I'm like, can I just do like a part 1 and a part 2 of a song, even though they're the same episode, and just take up 2 more tracks on the album?
I think I have all these voice memos, and I'll go through. I'm like, that sounds just like I have a lot that sounds similar.
Yeah, I do too.
And so when I come up with something that just is very unique compared to what I usually do, then I just want to see what happens with it, And I knew that, having had the experience of year 1 with you guys, I knew that coming in, if I brought this in, I liked the idea. It was a cool idea. I thought it had kind of this swagger to it, and that it didn't at first, but I knew that we could give it that, when we brought it all together. So I just wanted, I think that if it hadn't worked, we would have scrapped it eventually. But I think that once we really got it all together, I think it worked pretty well. And I think it is a good, coming off of Galileo 7, you're just like on fire at the end of that song. And then it comes in and you're just like ready to groove a little bit. And then you kick him in the face with Arena.
I have a memory of year 2 and Squire, because I played bass on that song, and that was still back in the time where I was like, well, I've got to try to prove myself as a bassist. I can't just, I've got to like really craft this bass and make it sound, interesting. Not just play root notes and do this, but it's a weird song. It's a hard, like, it wasn't easy to do. Like, it wasn't easy to come up with a bass line for that.
Well, it's all
I thought
minor.
Was interesting. It's minor, and I wanted to keep it bouncing and keep that groove.
The song at its core is very simple. I mean, it's like what, 3 or 4 chords, and it's just a really simple song. The way the other instruments complement it with the vocals and how it goes, it does present a challenge musically, which
I
think that we all.
And I messed around with it for a while, and I thought I had something that I liked, and then I think I kind of got down on myself, and I was like, I remember at a practice or two that I was just like, no, here, Mike, you do something, because I don't think I remember that. I don't think I got this. I don't know what I'm doing on this, and I think I gave it to him, and I don't know what I switched to. I must have switched to keys at that point, because that's what you were doing.
Maybe.
That's what you do on it. I don't remember. But then I remember like listening, and it was like the one time ever, like the only time that it's ever happened that I thought like, nope, I think I like my bass line better than whatever Mike's doing, and took it back. Like, and I would never, ever in a million years like do that anymore. Like, but at the time I was like, no, I think I don't like what you're doing. Give it back.
I probably played something terrible on purpose to encourage you and inspire you to be more confident.
Oh, you see, you're a master teacher, Mike. Master teacher.
Because clearly I could have come up with something better than what you did.
Yeah.
I generally just kind of embrace those bass notes, on the bass. Actually, what was it? I think Aaron to Mercy was the first song that I was like, I want to do something on the bass, I'd never done before. And I think that was the first song I ever did that really had a lot of movement in the bass. And generally my bass lines tend to be more driving. Mm-hmm. A lot of the songs I play bass on, Ultimate Computer and Doomsday, and it's just like these driving songs.
Bunch of my songs.
Yeah, that's kind of what that's and it also lends itself better to moving around and kind of jumping around and stuff that I like to do.
But when I go back, like, we still play these songs, but I'm not playing the same thing that's on the album. Like, it's a symbol, like
that happens with a lot of our songs, especially the older ones. Yeah. The farther we get from recording them, the more we experiment. And honestly, there's a couple of songs that I play on now that what I'm playing is more accurate than what I recorded, because like I would record something and then later realize, oh, that's the wrong note.
I think I have a couple of that too.
and then I corrected it for the live show.
Well, I mean, the way we record, generally speaking, you're laying down instrumentation for somebody else's song. So, you write 4 songs and you're singing 4 songs, but then you've got these 12 other songs that you have to learn a part for. And if you're not playing rhythm guitar, then you've got to figure out, okay, we've got keys, do we want this to move, or do we want to kind of, lay down this blanket of sound? How do we want the bass to sound? And so by the time we get to recording, we've practiced like a handful of times on all these songs, because we only have so much time and practice. Yeah. And so by the time we get to recording, it's like, okay, what did I play here? And then you just like do it the way it works. And then once we record it, it works, but then we get to the point where it's like beyond where we can change it, and we're just like, you know what? I'm going to play it this way now. Yeah. So it may not necessarily be the way we recorded it, but we do that because it's better.
Usually, I've noticed a trend with us on most of our albums where, we have 16 songs on an album. Usually 12 of them we work on pretty hard and flesh out really well. And then
for a last minute edition.
Near the end, we realize that, we've got these other songs we've hardly worked on, and the album's due next week.
Yeah, right.
Well, we'll come up with something for Conscience of the King. Let's just get it done.
Well, and it was for you for year 4. I felt like it was
For the World is
Hollow. I felt like that's the one that we were like.
That's because remember when I did, because I built that up using
GarageBand.
Because I had this kind of digital sound in my head, and then we ended up making it more organic when we put it down. But that was definitely one that took me a while to really flesh it out.
Like right before you almost died.
Yeah.
And so like,
there
was no, like, we recorded it, but like there was no practicing of it, and like I think we have still never practiced it.
We just don't do it very often.
I think since you almost died, you've never gone back and tried to practice it and resurrect it to play it.
I would love to play that song.
Yeah, I would too. It's just, it would be totally new. Like I would have to go back and listen to the recording in depth and in detail to like.
But back to Squire.
Oh, is that what we're talking about?
Right. My keyboard part is so basic. Like the one I recorded on the album is so simple. What? Yeah. It's just that same sound from Mirror Mirror. It's that same like.
It's probably the same note, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. They start with the same note.
It's a C sharp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so simple that I really have. I mean, there's nothing I can say about it other than that. I play like 4 notes. And it's just, but I did learn the trumpet parts, the main trumpet. I didn't learn like the whole song, but for when we did it live. Yeah. But what I did want to mention, because I mean he's not here, but to talk about it. But the guitar work that Patrick came up with for this song is really incredible. I mean, after everything he did on year 1, I was just surprised that he had even more in him, like another style. Like that guy is just endless with.
Yeah, I remember when I first heard it all together, and I was just like, oh yeah, this is it. Yeah, the Patrick's lead does really lend a lot to the song. It gives it a different voice. It's almost like another vocal line. That is, kind of a call and answer almost. And I thought I've always enjoyed that line and paired with the, what's going on with the trumpet. It all just kind of works together.
Yeah. They really play off of each other.
I've got a question for you guys. If you guys had done this episode, what would you have targeted to write the song about? Because there's really a lot, I think, to write the song about.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It would be hard for me to not do it from Trelane's point of view.
Yeah,
like that. It just seems like it commands Trelane's point of view.
Yeah.
For the song,
I would probably go with Trelane's point of view,
just because he's a petulant child, and that's just so easy to put into like.
Yeah.
Song form and in any genre, like I am being treated unfair and I'm not getting what I deserve, and that's an easy
a lot of
thing.
Petulant child songs.
Well, that's kind of a theme in Star Trek. The other point of view that I'm thinking about right now that would appeal to me.
The parents
is from the parents. Yes, no, the glowing ball parents. The glowing ball parents. Yeah. I would probably consider doing it from their point of view.
Yeah, that would be my second choice.
And it would, for me, it would probably be an upbeat song on probably a rocker of some sort.
See, if I was going to do it again, because I can make anything into a love song, apparently.
Yeah.
When he basically abducts everyone, and is it Yeoman Ross? Is that who it is?
I can't remember her name.
So he's dancing with the yeoman.
Yeah,
I think it's Yeoman Ross.
In that scene, he tells you her to play, and she starts playing.
Yeah.
Sulu gets up from the table, and he walks past McCoy.
Yeah.
And he kind of slows down and looks at McCoy, and and McCoy looks up at him. And then gets up and follows him. It looks like Sulu is asking him to come dance with him.
Yeah, maybe he was.
It's what it looked like. Like when we were watching it, I was like, "Did you see that?" And I rewound it and showed it to Noah. Like, it's just funny. But go on.
So anyway, Trelane pretty much makes her dance with him,
right?
And it kind of a mix of what you guys are saying and what I'm thinking. Is that it's from Trelane's perspective, but he's like this little kid in high school that asked the popular girl to dance, and in his head, this is going great.
It's going great,
and it could even be one of those songs that's from 2 points of view, whereas on this side, this is the best day of my life, and on this side, it's like, oh my god, when this is gonna be over, So I think that would be a fun.
So like
fun exercise.
It could be like a Dolly and Kenny like bluegrass country duet where the guy's all like, I know you like me, and then the girl's all like, get away from me, like that's.
Did I do a country song on that album?
Yeah, Court Marshall's on that album.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It's called Court Marshall.
Yeah. The country swing or the western swing.
That's for another episode.
You're right.
I think it should be a song from the salt vampire statue's point of view.
It should just be a song about the salt vampire.
It ends when it gets phasered into oblivion.
Well, that's got Mike written all over it. He likes to abruptly and awkwardly end songs, just like conversations.
Don't look at me. Pretend I'm not here. I'm just in the background. Why are you pointing that at me? The end.
But you would end at mid-verse, like in the middle of a verse, in the middle of a lyric line, because you just got blasted by a phaser.
That's a great idea.
You know, the more I think about it, the more I appreciate the fact that I wrote this song and not Mike.
Hang on.
Of course, Mike hadn't gone down.
This stuff writes itself.
Mike hadn't gone down the dark path yet. We did not yet have. You know what I'm talking about.
Wolf in the
Fold. Yeah,
the best song on year 3.
It's a song on year 3.
Hey, that's you called it a song. That's good.
I remember the first couple times we played it, it just felt so rough to me. Mm-hmm. I felt like it
was.
Yeah.
I felt like we just didn't have a hold on it. Like we just didn't know what to do with it. And I think early on, nobody really knew what to do with it because it was, and I realized that it's just, I mean, Court Martial's a lot the same way. It's a specific, it's not just a rock song where you can just run for the finish line. You kind of have to get into it and find that feel. And so I think that's part of the reason why it doesn't go over as well live, because we never really took the time to develop that part of it. It works in the recording, but not so much for us live, which is why, you know, when we were talking about, you know, you talked about we changed it up and kind of made this other version of it. I think that will work better live for us.
Yeah, especially if we stick with it, commit to it and stick with it, you know.
Yeah. Although we still do have, you know, one or two people that every once in a while, you know, why don't you guys play that song ever? Which I'm always like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let's play that song again.
It's just one of those that you can't pull out. I mean, some of them that we haven't played in a while, we could sort of pull out and make it happen with very little practice. And then there's others, and I feel like Squire's just one where like we have to really like pull it back out and know it well in order to make it work. It's not just like, let's just whip it out and crash through it, and it'll be kind of funny and quirky as we crash through it. It's not, that's not the type of song that you can do that with.
It is one that has to be like that. Worked through. Well, not necessarily worked through, but just we all have to refamiliarize ourselves with it before we put it out there live again. You know, I don't know that when I wrote it, there's some songs that I'm fully conscious of that, you know, that we might not be, you know, the slower songs like Menagerie 2 and City, where I wasn't surprised that we didn't play it out a lot, because it's not like we're playing arenas and we're playing these 2-hour shows where we need these slower songs to kind of break things up. Yeah. You know, we play these driving hour-long shows, and
a lot of times they're only like 40 minutes.
Yeah. And so, you know, throwing slow songs in there just kind of kills it. Yeah. And so,
especially at 1 a.m. at the Melody Inn.
Right. And so I don't know that I really consider that for this song. And, you know, it's very mid-tempo though, and, you know, mid to slow tempo. So it's not one of those that really lends itself well to live. But that, you know, they're not all songs that work well live, and that's okay. Yeah. I mean, I think if everything that we did, we tried to make it something we could play live, then it would be a detriment to the whole,
to the song itself, or to
the album. I mean, you want that kind of flow, up and down flow throughout the album.
Right.
In some songs, you just like, you've got that feel for it when you write it, and you just know like, this is the song I want to write, and this is what it's going to be, and it may be great on the album, and it may just never work live, and that's just how it is.
One of my favorite songs still that we have on any album is The Apple. I love that song. Mm-hmm. And it's just like this, it just has such a cool feel to it. And it's just one that it would just destroy, like it would just,
You just
bring the show
you can't
down.
quite recreate. Yeah, you just can't recreate
things like the Apple and Squire are great for acoustic shows because acoustic shows are way more laid back. Well, it depends on the venue, but if we're playing a show where it's just kind of a hangout show, or we're just kind of background and playing, you know, an acoustic show like that, then stuff like that is perfect for it. It'll be interesting to see what we do with Squire with kind of the different version.
At the same time, we did not play City on the Edge of Forever very much.
That's true.
For a long time, and then we just recently reworked it, and we played it like every single show since we reworked it.
The first Menagerie, we did the same thing. You know, we reworked that one, so it would be a different version that would work better with a live show.
Yeah, it's more fun for an audience. Yeah. Less of a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fun to rework them too.
It is. Well, it's fun for us because we get to do something different with something that we've worked with for a while, and it gives us the opportunity to see it in a different way. But I think it's also fun for the people that listen to us because they've been listening to the same thing. I mean, I know I like going to shows, and then a band that I really love will start playing a song, and then 30 seconds in, I'm like, oh, I know this song, like I don't recognize this. And then I realize what it is. And I think that speaks to the artistry of what's going on in the band, not just playing the same thing over and over again, exactly the same as the album.
Well, I mean, and that not only does that get boring for the band, it gets boring for the audience. Like,
well, especially for a situation where we play a lot of local shows. And I mean, we play regionally too, but for people that come to see us all the time, I mean, they keep coming to see us, so it must not be that boring, but it adds that extra little spark, I think, that makes it more interesting for them.
When you play The Cage and For His Head is Hollow and I Have Touched Spock's Brain as the two opening songs at every show,
for 2 years.
It gets really old, and people stop coming because they're like, well, they're just going to play those same songs again.
Yeah. So we have enough songs that we can mix it up.
We do. What we don't have enough time is practice time.
Relearning a song we haven't played in 6 years.
We haven't played in 6 years. Yeah.
That's why I'm always challenging you guys to pull songs out of the trash.
Out of the basement.
I know that you said that we're never going to play Enemy Within, but now we're going to play it.
And we did.
Yeah.
And so people enjoyed it.
I mean, bringing it back to Squire, just to wrap it up, what was, as far as developing that song, what was your favorite part about bringing that song to life? And I know Mike said that it was unexpected what it was, but in developing the song and doing what we did with it, what did you find the most rewarding outcome of the song?
For me, I just think the final product was the ultimate reward, because going from the demo, again, it was this thing like, okay, how are we going to make this do what it needs to do? Like, because I could tell what you wanted it to be and what it could be, but I don't know that I have the confidence that we could make it that way, But by the end, once, Patrick had his lead on there, which was, again, just a pretty amazing lead to go with that style that it needed to do. And we threw the trumpets on there, and I had busted my brain to try to come up with some kind of bass line that came up, followed the groove and needed to do some of the things it needed to do. Like, I was just impressed by the final product that we did what I think is justice to what your original vision was for it, which after hearing the first demo, I thought, I don't know what we're going to do with it. How are we going to do with this? How are we going to make this work?
And while you were talking about the development of the song there, something that we haven't mentioned at all are the drums. And
they're okay.
Well, that really stands out to me because
you made some. You were making some changes. I remember.
Actually, I remember that.
I made some really specific.
That became a trend for a while.
Because I tend to do that.
Well, I mean, I remember. Yes, this was the first song too. Like we practiced it a certain way all the times.
Yeah.
And then we got ready to record, and we got everything all set up, the mics, and Andy's ready, and you show up, and you're like, I want to change it. Yeah. and Andy was like, what do you mean you want to change it?
Well, to his credit, I mean, I don't speak drum because, you know, I can sing to you what I want a guitar lead to sound like, or what I want a keyboard part to sound like, or I can show you what I want. Drums, I can't do that. All I can do is make stupid gestures and noises with my mouth.
Give us an example.
No. But I remember that's what I was doing, trying to, so you know, Andy had gotten the feel right away. Well, I mean, I think that there was a little bit of build up to it, but, you know, once he got the feel and we were rolling with it, it was good. But the thing that was really bugging me is that it was so static. Like there wasn't any movement in the song. It was just like the same thing throughout the whole song. And I mean, we had the bridge that changed it up a little bit, but it didn't have any contours like throughout. So what I wanted is, you know, the verses kind of have this 2-part structure where you have a few lines and then you hear the toms, and it was the toms on the second half, the back half of those verses where I really wanted it to kind of drop the snare back, because just to give it kind of just a different feel there, and use those toms.
Some dynamic.
And Andy and I went around on this for a while because I couldn't convey to him well enough what I wanted, but I was kind of making sounds and telling him I kind of wanted this round sound, you know, like to bring to like he was rolling around the drum kit. And, you know, eventually he uses mallets for that part. And it just took a while to get that message across to him. But once he, you know, translated that and interpreted it the way I wanted it, I was just so happy. I mean, I remember just the change from what we were doing at the beginning to when I finally felt like that was the song, you know, and that was really the turning point for me, where I felt I just didn't feel good about it. And then we made that drum change, and I was like, okay, we're there. This is what I want.
And I think for the rest of us, we were like, oh God, I don't know what we're going to do with this song. Oh God, now he's changing it in the middle of recording. Oh God, what's going to happen?
Well, luckily, what they changed on that didn't affect the rest of us that much.
Yeah, fortunately, yeah.
Yeah, I have a tendency, I mean, you guys can attest to this, where I have I'll listen to something, because what we do is we'll do these recordings close to when we're going to record. We do these live recordings, and then I'll listen to these over and over again, and I'll be like, this is what I can't hear when we're all together doing this. And so I'll hear what's missing, or I'll know something's not right, and then I'll want to change it. But then it'll be right, you know, it'll be time to record, and then it's, you know, the 11th hour, and I want to make changes, but you have to. You can't not do it. Otherwise, that's all you're ever going to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing that I'm happy with in this band, is there's very few things when I listen back to our albums that you know, I regret or that I feel is missing.
Yeah.
I feel like we typically accomplish all the things that we want to do with most of our songs,
except for the never-ending tedium of mix adjusting.
Yeah.
Which to this day I'll still be like, oh my God, why didn't I turn that snare up more? Oh my God, why is that guitar just slightly above this guitar?
Yeah,
why, you know?
Occasionally there's that, but I think because we all have a hand in the entire process, that I think that everyone's mostly satisfied.
Yeah.
And actually, speaking of that, to answer your question from a few minutes ago, like that was my answer. Was I enjoyed mixing this song because it was a challenge, because it was different than all the songs we'd done previous.
Yeah.
And you know, it had horns, like real horns in it, you know, not just keyboard horns, you know, and it to
corns.
Yeah. to blend everything together and, you know, make it work was it was a fun challenge, and it kind of gave me some experience for future songs.
Yeah.
Did you have an answer for the question, Chris?
I would say that, kind of what I related, the most rewarding part was that moment where I realized this is working. This was one of those songs where I was feeling, it's the worst feeling, man. Like you do all this work to build up this song and you just don't feel good about it. And this was one of those songs. And then we got those drums. I hesitate to say right. They weren't wrong before. They just weren't what I wanted. They weren't what I heard. Actually, I don't even know if I'd envisioned that way. It just kind of was what I didn't know it needed in my mind. And once we got there, I was just real happy with the song.
We've got a 2-star review to read of Squire of Gothos.
And
or is it Gothos?
It's Gothos. And where does this come from?
That's on IMDb.
Okay, so this is on IMDb.
Yeah, it's a 5 out of 10, but with
right.
the reviews we usually talk about, if it's out of 5, it's like 2.5.
2 to 3 star reviews by 5 Year Mission. All right, 2-star reviews by 5 Year Mission. The Squire of Gothos. It's hard to do with a straight face. And you thought Shatner could be a ham. When we see the Squire Trelane for the first time playing his harpsichord, I thought it was Liberace. William Campbell chewed the scenery through this silly episode worse than Shatner ever did. The only sillier episode is the one where they're on a planet whose members are copying Chicago mobsters. Please, I can only suspend so much disbelief. Also, they should have made the Squire a man in his 20s. The Squire is much too old to be so childish. Entertaining, but campy as all get out and utterly ridiculous.
2-star reviews by 5 Year Mission.
Accurate. All right, well, this has been our Squire of Gothos episode of What Are Little Songs Made Of the 5 Year Mission, the podcast. All right, well, see you guys next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 5 Year Mission, the podcast. If any of you are interested in listening to more of our music, you can check us out on YouTube or Spotify or iTunes or pretty much anywhere that you can listen to music. Just search for 5 Year Mission and we should be the first thing that comes up. If you would like to contact us in regards to the podcast or anything else that you want to talk to us about, you can email us at 5yearmissionband@gmail.com.
And for more information about the band, you can go to 5yearmission.net and also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Fansets.com is your home for all things Star Trek pin related, including pin releases from DC, Harry Potter, and Firefly. You're bound to find something you'll like in the nearly 200 pins. Fansets is currently offering a super limited amount of Brent Spiner and Doug Jones autographed pins. These are almost sold out, and these are also not machine replicated, and both come with a certificate of authenticity. Also, brand spanking new this month, new pins featuring Captain Janeway, Luther Sloan, Major Harris, the Mako logo from Enterprise, Travis Mayweather, Commander Non, and Michael Burnham. And as an added bonus, listeners can get 15% off their entire order at fansets.com through our special discount code. Simply enter the word NOG at checkout, all caps, N-O-G, NOG, in honor of Mr. Aaron Eisenberg. Fansets. We are Star Trek, and we thank Fansets for sponsoring this week's episode.